Kia ora, talofalava, and a warm welcome back to another episode of the Counter Ruck, a podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the Counter Ruck, Stacey, and today we welcome a knowledgeable man in the rugby circles and the host of the Pitch podcast on our network, Mr. Joey Nanai. Joey, thanks for jumping on, brother.
Thanks, brother. Thank you for having me once again. City of the
no
Future.
Worries. City of the Future, yes, I got to keep remembering to add that in. We're going to get into it pretty quickly, but I'll just take care of a few housekeeping things before we start. So our website, check out our website. We're up and running now, www.weswesnet.com, and also you can follow the Counter Ruck on Twitter and Facebook. So give us a follow and give us a like on there. So before we get into our weekly reviews and stuff, the Stuff website, they released a list of the top 50 most influential players. So I'm not sure if you saw it, but I won't go through the whole list. There were some surprising names in there. I thought it's the top 10 was Sia Khaleesi, Pablo Matera, Brodie Retallick, Sam Cane, Anton Dupont at 6, Beauden Barrett at 5, Semi Radradra at 4, Peter Steph du Toit at 3, Aaron Smith at 2, and Maro Itoje at 1. Another notable one there, Portia Woodman at 13. She was the highest woman there. So what did you think of that list, and anything that you thought was a bit weird or any changes you would have made? Itoje at number 1, or what did you think of that?
Look, I think he's a class player. I think he's a, world-class player at that. And my immediate question was, how did they come up with this list? Like, what criteria did they go through to get this list? And how did Itoje beat out all the rest? That's not to say he doesn't deserve it if they used a good criteria selection process. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually went about it. Itoje, I like him. Do I think he's the number one player in the world? No, I don't. I think there's a raft of other players, a couple of that you mentioned, that have had more of an influence, impact, and success than he has anyway, even in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. Brodie Retallick at 8. I'm a huge fan of his, but he's sort of been in Japan for the past year and a half now. So just for that reason, I'd probably move him down a bit. And Beauden Barrett, since he's moved to fullback and now he's moved to Japan, I'd probably move him a bit down as well. So I thought that was a bit of New Zealand bias in there from two of our best players historically. So I probably would have moved them a bit down. But yeah, I was pretty happy with Itoje, similar to you. I haven't got much complaints as well. I'm glad they had Dupont in there. I'm a big fan of him at 6. And I thought Ardie Savia, he came in at 12th. I thought maybe he could have been a top 10 guy. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy. They got some women in there. Kendra Cox-Edge, I think, was at 17. I actually think she's more influential than Portia Woodman at this point. Woodman was outstanding sort of a couple of years ago. So I tried to, like you mentioned, look at the criteria that they used, and they were quite vague on it. They didn't really say how they picked who was most influential, because of some of the guys that they picked and some of the people they picked maybe 2 years ago or a year ago would have been definitely high up that list. But I thought it was a good exercise from them. It's one of those topics where no one's ever going to really agree. So yeah, Itoje, and I'm not too disappointed with that. I couldn't really think of anyone else who could potentially take him. Or Aaron Smith was probably the guy from New Zealand who came to mind, and he was at 2 anyway. So a pretty good list there. We'll get into our reviews. So we had 2 Golden Point games, which is a rarity in New Zealand rugby and Super Rugby. But I think it was Friday or Saturday night, I believe. The Highlanders and the Chiefs. So 23 the Highlanders and 26 to the Chiefs, who won it in Golden Point there. Not sure if you saw much of that game from your neck of the woods, but did you catch it, and what did you make of it?
Oh, as I thought, the Highlanders did lead in certain parts of their game, but I thought the game itself kind of, the result anyway, I think it masked some of the poor play that went out throughout the game by both sides, not just by the losing team, which was the Highlanders. But I
Mm,
think,
agree.
and the exciting bit about Golden Point for me is the fact that it can take away the poor performance of both sides with an exciting finish like a drop goal or a penalty, like what
Hmm.
DMAC enjoyed at the end there. So yeah, I think all in all, it was a poor performance by both teams, but the Golden Point ending was the most exciting part.
Yep. Well, was an interesting game. I thought Frizzell was outstanding for the Highlanders again. His carries, which you touched on last week, mate, he was outstanding for them. He's really putting pressure on to be that All Black six. But Mitch Hunt, he was the hero last week, and he was a bit gayer this week. So, um, and in their home stadium, I'm not sure, but it seems to be an issue. We've seen it before. The goal kicking was a little bit off there. So both teams, if they kicked better at goal, they probably could have won it in regular times. So I think Mitch Hunt was 6 from 9, which isn't too bad, I guess. 66%, and DMAC 3 from 7 is pretty poor. Um, but yeah, I agree with you about the Golden Point. It was an exciting finish, sort of covered up a lot of the first sort of 60 odd minutes where there was a lot of mistakes and a bit stop start. But Chiefs 3 in a row, mate. They from losing 12 in a row to winning 3 in a row. They're all about the streaks, so good on them.
Yeah,
Give them credit there.
hardly call three in a row a streak, would you?
No, no, I guess not. But hey, look, they'll take it after the 12 that they lost in a row, whatever it was. So yeah, good on the whole Chiefs there to get another win. But yeah,
Did you
we'll
know
look
as
forward
a
to Sunday's game. So, oh, no, carry on.
as a bit of a trivial stat, the Blues are the only team to not play in a Golden Point game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, wonder what odds you would have got on that. That would have been that would have been a couple of hundred to one, I would think. But yeah, especially after this weekend, who would no one would have thought that? But yeah, good point. Yeah, we'll look forward to Sunday's game. So on Sunday, Hurricanes played the Crusaders down in Wellington, and the Crusaders took it out again in Golden Point, 30 points to 27. So I'm not sure if you caught much of that one, but what did you make of that game?
I think it was nice to see the black bus. Sorry, they call them the bus these days, but it's great to see the bus back in action and back to his try scoring ways. I wouldn't say try scoring best, but he scored a try, and it was nice to see him dot down. Um, I think Wellington always get in their own way, especially when they. At, I think was the final score 30-27. I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, 30-27.
30-27 it was.
Um, I thought there was some outstanding performances by a few individuals. A couple of the old heads probably needed needed a bit more oomph in what they did. I think they were relaxed, especially guys like Dane Coles. I think he could have done a bit better. Adi Xavier had a good game. Um, a couple of the young guys, they showed that they are keen, but I think a few more games under their belt will help them in the long run to enjoy those wins a bit better and find out ways to win. Like I said, the old heads in the Hurricanes team, they probably could have picked up a bit more in their own individual performances. Ngani Laumape, he was found wanting as well. I don't know whether he's on the decline or what, but he was one guy who I thought could have played a little bit better. Geordie
Mm.
Barrett, I think, was outplayed by his counterpart, even though his counterpart didn't have the best of games himself. Um, I thought Asafo Almore could have come on a bit sooner than he did. The 57th minute, probably should have brought him on straight after the half time. Even Scott Scrafton probably could have come on a bit sooner as well. And I would look at starting guys like him in the next game, just based on that
Yeah.
performance where he came on and actually did a good job. Um, it would be nice to see Duplessis Karifi get more game time and actually be trusted with the starting position again. But obviously, he has to earn that internally in their camp. So, it'll be nice to see guys like that firing again because I believe he's a genuine contender for the All Black jersey when he's on fire.
Yeah, that's an interesting one that you mentioned with Karifi as well. Because with Sam Cane going down, I wonder if Ari has said, "Hey, look, I'm going to be the 7 for the All Blacks. Give me the 7 jersey." So we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but he's been playing 8 basically for all this time. But now, yeah, with Sam Cane going down, he's moved, could grab that 7 jersey again. But yeah, I agree with your take on Karifi. He's close. I agree with again with Scott Scrafton as well. But yeah, it was a good game. See Geordie Barrett taking some shots from over 60 meters out for having a shot at goal is it's always dangerous, and it's amazing that he missed that kick, but it wasn't because of distance; it was because of accuracy. So he can kick that man. So yeah, I just get you brought up a good point, which made me just think of now. So we saw. Um, D-Mac in that first game, he was quite influential, and then Geordie Barrett, and then you also mentioned Will Jordan there. So how do you see the fullback race lining up? If you put your All Black selectors hat on, how would you be sort of jumping at that one?
I think if I was to choose the team right now based on current form, you'd have to still back Geordie Barrett. He's as an international player, we all know that he's safe. He's got a good boot, and he's good under the high ball. So I think that's the one thing that will probably count against the likes of DMAC. Will Jordan is still a bit of an unknown factor compared to the other two. However, Will Jordan, mate, I just love seeing him with ball in hand. The way he can hit a line, the way he can, be in the right place at the right time. So, yeah, exciting player, just like DMAC, very energetic. But if I was an All Black selector right now, I'm going for safety. I'm going for things like high ball and pressure moments in the game. And who would I want there taking the high ball?
Yep. Oh well, we're on the same page then, because I would also go for Geordie as well, just mainly for the reasons that you mentioned. So although I changed my mind a little bit each week, I had DMAC ahead if you'd probably asked me a couple of weeks back. But yeah, Geordie, I think the selectors like him as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets first crack at that jersey. Um, so there were a couple of Australian games. Again, we don't really delve too deep into it, but I'm not sure if you watched much Rebels in the Force. So it's 16-15 to the Force in that game. And the Reds and the Brumbies played out another thriller, 24-22. So did you catch any Australian stuff?
Yeah, I caught a bit of the Reds game. Um, there was some outstanding plays. Again, what's her name? Taniela Tupo. He's put his hand up again. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the best of games in the scrummage, but I thought he had another solid showing. And it was great. The best part for me was just seeing that 20,000 strong crowd. Australia hasn't been able to enjoy that kind of a crowd in a long time. So it was nice to see that the Reds crowd come out and cheer their team on, and obviously their team got the result. So it was nice to see. There were standouts like James O'Connor. He was one. There was a couple of others I named in conversation during the week. Can't
Mm.
remember who they are right now, but yeah, they were. It was nice.
Yeah,
Also, who else was there? There was Checker, I believe, was the commentator. Michael
yeah.
Checker.
Michael Chica, right.
Yeah, but it was a good game. It was
Yeah,
actually a really good game. It was probably the best of
yeah. I
the
remember.
of the weekend.
Yeah, it was a good game. I remember in our chat
In
you
terms of
talked up Valentini. I just watched some of
that's the one,
the highlights, and
Rob Valentini.
Valentini, the blindside for the Brumbies. He
Yep,
was
Rob
bloody
Valentini.
awesome.
He
wrecking
was my
ball.
man of the
So,
match.
mm,
He was my man of the match. There
yeah,
was one time we got blown off the ball, but his most of his game was just fire. You know, he was really good. He was my man of the match.
yeah. I watched bits of that Rebels Force. That was a tough watch. There is a distinct class systems between the Reds and the Brumbies at the top, and sort of there's a bit of a gap to the rest. But I thought Tormore, he was a bit hit and miss. So you mentioned James O'Connor. I think he's really wrapped up that starting 10 jersey for the Wallabies. It was sort of a bit up in the air. Tormore had a good start to the season. I know they had Reece Hodge there last year, who he did a good job against the All Blacks as well. But I think O'Connor, in my eyes anyway, he looks like the first choice 10 there. And they're going to have to fit Hodge and Tormoy and Pitaya and all these other guys in that backline somewhere else. So it's quite interesting. They've got some really good quality backs coming through. So I'm really looking for. I like what I'm seeing out of the Reds in particular, like you mentioned. And yeah, some of the forwards as well, those Brumbies forwards. I think Australia could start to have the makings of a good team. That Trans Tasman section, which looks like it's all go, that's going to be really interesting because we think I think the Reds might be good, but we'll see when they play the Crusaders and those types of teams if they're really as good as they look on TV anyway. Mm. All right, we're going to do a couple of previews. So this coming weekend, the Blues had the bye last week, so they're up first on Friday night. They've got the Highlanders down in Dunedin. So, mate, have you got any thoughts on that one and give us a prediction for that one?
Blues Highlanders. Well, okay. This is a funny one because last week you asked me a similar question about Highlanders versus the Chiefs, and the Chiefs were coming off a bye,
Yes.
and I predicted that the Highlanders would get away from the Chiefs with a W. The Highlanders and the Chiefs both made liars out of me. So this time I'm going to back the pattern, the one game pattern, where a team that came off the bye was supposedly fresh, and the other team that's got match fitness, that team being the Highlanders, again. I'm going to give it to the Blues based on what happened last week, where the Chiefs came off a bye and got the W in the end, albeit during Golden Point. But I think the Blues are fresh and have been toiling away in quiet in the, and wherever they train. I think Alizé and over at Unitech there in Mount Albert. Um, so I'll give it to the Blues to win a close game. Even though the Highlanders probably feel a bit dejected now, especially after reading in the press that their own coach is saying they should be feeling quite bad about that loss against the Chiefs that they expected to win. So I'm going to give it to the Blues, and the Highlanders are on a bit of a downer this week as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the Highlanders. Oh man, that was such two contrasting performances from that Crusaders game to the Chiefs game. So they're quite hard to pick. Um, I know that Fakatava, who's a guy who would have made the All Blacks this year. I think that was a big loss to them. They played Aaron Smith for big minutes, and I don't know if they've got the same level of trust in Kane Hamilton. I think is the reserve halfback now. So that's putting a lot more pressure on Smith, and that such a critical position at nine. So I thought that they had that 1-2 punch, which really altered a lot of their team play and their style. So I'm with you. I quite like the Blues as well. Yeah, I'm going with the Blues. But yeah, a big game on Saturday. Surprisingly, a big game. So the Chiefs at home against the Crusaders. So the Chiefs on a 3-game winning streak. And Crusaders, what, 2 game or 1 game lose? They lost that game, and then a Golden Point game. So maybe getting taken a bit. So how are you seeing that one?
Um, Look, I'm going to go with the performances I've seen of both sides, and from what I've seen, even though the Crusaders were able to tough it out and win via the Golden Point droppy to David Havili, I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs just purely on home ground advantage. I know that that's at that stadium, Waikato Stadium, FNG Stadium, they have the best crowd that I've ever been a part of,
Mm.
and they really back their team. So I think
Yep.
that'll work in their advantage, to their advantage, and that'll help get them over the line, especially with the travelling Crusaders side who um, just scraped in a win after a poor performance the week before. So yeah, I think the Crusaders are on the rebuild in terms of during season, and they normally show up at their business end anyway. So, and they're still in the lead by some way against the Blues in second, and I forget who's third. But I'm going to give this game to the Chiefs. There's a young Nanai in there, so I'm kind of biased a little bit by that and the fact that I live in Chiefs country.
Yep. Yeah, so you brought up a good point. So the Chiefs are actually third. They're the same record as the Blues, 3 wins, 2 losses. So the Blues are in second. Just they've got a couple of extra bonus points. So it's going to come down to the wire. It looks like the Crusaders, unless something dramatic happens, will have 1 foot in the final already, and then it's out of that Chiefs and Blues to sort of see who gets that other spot now. So the Chiefs I give them a shot. I think I'm with you. I'm actually going to go for the Chiefs as well. I think Jack Goodhue, we're doing this podcast before the teams are named, but it looked like he got quite a serious injury, so that could be another big loss to them. They've already got Eno and a couple of other midfielders out, so might be a bit skinny in those options. And I think Joe Moody is the other guy who picked up an injury over the weekend. So Chiefs will be confident. It's going to be a good game. I think that's going to be probably the match of the round. But yeah, I'll go for the Chiefs as well in a close one. So again, we're on the same page. I'm not sure if that's a good thing because it wasn't. Our predictions weren't that good last week. But yeah, which just brings me to our TAB account. Unless you got something else you want to say on that Chiefs Crusaders match, but our TAB accounts are up to $147, mate. So $10. What do you like? What do you like for us?
Oh, I'm a big believer in high risk, high reward.
That's how we got the $100 to start off with.
Yes,
High risk, high
yes,
reward.
and
Yep.
and the high risk in this situation is that exact game we just spoke about, which is the Chiefs versus Crusaders. No one's, I would believe, 90% of New Zealanders who enjoy rugby would be betting against the Chiefs this week and wanting, not necessarily wanting Crusaders to win, but expecting Crusaders to come away with a W. I think the good money is on the Chiefs. I truly believe that. And I'm not the kind of person who normally makes bets with his heart, but this time I think the heart is backed by some stats and some intellectual uh, gratification or verification.
Nice, nice. All right, so that's going to be us $10 on the Chiefs this week. So any of our punters out there, we're doing well. We're $100 ish in profit. So anyone who wants to jump on our tips, feel free. Yeah, all right. We'll just do a quick update on our Whiz medal. So just for our listeners, we have our Whiz medal that's named after our network, and it's for the Super Rugby Player of the Year. So what we do is we review each game and allocate 3 points to the best player, 2 points for the second best player, and 1 point for the third best player, and then tally up the points at the end of the season to get a winner of the Whiz medal as our Super Rugby Player of the Year. And also, it's been quite congested at the top, but we do now have an outright leader again. So Cody Taylor is the guy. After another strong performance over the weekend, he's retaken the lead. So he started off with a hiss and a roar, and then everyone sort of caught up to him. But he's on 9 points, and then we've got 4 guys pushing hard on 6 points. So Matt Moore, Richie Moonga, Tom Banks, and Taniela Tupo, who we touched on a bit earlier. They're coming second equal in all, trying to push for that medal. So still a lot of rugby to come up. And just for our listeners out there, we do post our the updates on social media. So check us out there and keep an eye out for it. Nice, Joey. We're just about to close up. So I know just one thing. I'm not sure if you caught it. I'm sort of just springing this out. But Auckland, the NPC Auckland team, they had a bit of, I think it's sort of been a bit of a storm in the teacup in a way. But they were in the news recently. It looked like a bit of a player revolt, and ended with Philo Tiatia handing in his resignation. So I know we're both Auckland NPC supporters. So have you got anything you wanted to say on that?
I think I'd like to find out a bit more. I mean,
Yeah,
as things come to light, because I've met Philo myself and also Alama, and I think those guys had a vision. It may have been a Wellington influenced vision because they're both staunch Wellington men and were successful for Wellington backlines backline and forward packs back in the days. So it'd be interesting to see what was the reason why the player revolt came about and who actually was deeply involved in that revolt in terms of, okay, boys, we're going to go against the grain. We're going to fight the power. We're going to make a stand, and it's either him or us, which never works out in the favor of the coach when there's such a thing. And I have experienced that at club level where players did a revolt, and the coach at the time had no choice. My old rugby club there, so I feel for the coach that's involved. I feel for Philo. I'm not sure what the details are, but I've met the guy. I like him. I liked his vision. I like what he wanted for the team, for the club, or for the province. Obviously, there's some miscommunication or some things there that didn't gel. And I'd like to see where the misalignment was and the gaps, and whether or not for me as a original Aucklander, I'd like to know how my province got to such a state, because this only brings about the word toxic for me as someone who is looking at it from the outside in. I'm thinking, shit, the culture probably has taken a hit. Was there even a culture? That's another question we could ask. So it'll be interesting to find out as things come to light what were the reasons for the actions that have been taken. So I don't have Philo on speed dial, but it'll be interesting to find out from people who know him what their take is.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Well said. I agree with a lot of that actually. They were quite vague on the details, so it's hard to know what went on behind the scenes. But two guys that did get named, two players. Ofa Tonga Fasi was one that said that he was thinking of leaving and playing for Counties or Northland, one of those two teams. And Hoskins Satutu was the other guy who said that he was considering changing over it. So it's a bit weird, this player revolt thing and this player power in my eyes, for just from the outside looking in. But the coaches aren't there to be your mates if they were hard or whatever. It worked.
I think,
I felt.
yeah,
You look at the results, like we've supported Auckland for long enough to know that there was a period where they were pretty kaya. And then what? You look at the 3 years that Alama's had, they won a title, they made the semi-final, and then they lost the final, which for Auckland fans, considering the previous sort of decade, you'd take
yeah,
that every day of the
absolutely,
week. So,
absolutely. That's a massive success for him to come on board and gain the results that he did. He's normalized making the top four again.
hmm.
You know, like what more could the fans of Auckland ask for? Like, come on now, don't forget the last 10 years of failure that we've had. Of wondering, oh, where's Wayne Pivac? Can he come and save us again?
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah, so I was
So the
sort of
way,
like, well,
mm,
you just want the coach to be a bit more of a mate to you, or what? He's there to get the best out of you. And from the outside looking in, looking at those results, looks like it was working. So I was just surprised, I guess. I don't know. Obviously, we don't get to see what's happening behind the scenes, but
Yeah, it'll be
mm,
interesting. It'll be interesting to see those two named players that you named, Offa and Hoskins, what their stories are. I can agree a little bit with um, a move for Offa because he's originally from South Auckland.
mm,
He's
okay.
a Māori college boy, so I can agree with the change of province there because he's from County's Manukau area, pretty much. Whereas Hoskins, he's from the Marist Rugby Club, and it'll be interesting to see if there was a clash of mentalities because him and Philo obviously play the same position. And maybe the old head didn't agree with the way the young buck was conducting himself in terms of the position itself. So who knows? It'll be interesting to see what the reasoning was there for those two particular players as well, and anyone else that might have added to that. Where's Patrick Tuipulotu these days?
He's still around. He's a quiet captain, isn't he? He's not. It doesn't really come out and say much, but yeah, that would have been interesting to hear his thoughts, just as the captain of Auckland and the Blues. So I just hope, like you said, we've had some really strong results the last 3 seasons with these coaches. I hope this doesn't derail a lot of that stuff because it looks like there could be a bit of a clash between what the coaches are trying to do and what the players want to happen. So we'll keep updating it as more information comes through, just for us two both being Auckland fans. But yeah, I just got that feeling like, oh no, don't tell me that things are going awry already, just as we look like we've turned a corner. But yeah, we'll keep following that up. Yeah, well, that's about us, Joey, mate. We're just about to finish up. So, mate, have you just get some closing comments from you, some closing thoughts, just as we wrap up the podcast for another week?
Yeah, well, closing thought from me is it's good to see some of the younger talent putting their hands up in the Super Rugby across both New Zealand and Australia. And it's good to see that there is some progress with a Pacific Island team, albeit, all the conflicts of interest that went into that particular scenario. I feel like there's an unresolved challenge or issue or problem there that needs to be fixed. But look, all the power to them and good luck to them, and I will support them when they do take the field because they represent us. I think, on a whole, it's good to see that at a professional Super Rugby level, rugby is in a good space. I'm deeply concerned about, excuse me, the way grassroots rugby is shaping out at the moment because I'm hearing more often than not now that certain clubs around the country are finding it hard to field premier teams on the Saturday, and some are having to default. So that's ridiculous. Thinking, when you think about the fact that we live in this country that is rugby mad, or supposedly rugby mad. So maybe people don't want to play rugby anymore. Maybe people want to go and play Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, yeah, I think just the way the game has gone, they've really put so much emphasis on the professional side. And when you look at the development side, if you're sort of 15, 16, 17, and you haven't been noticed by anyone, that's where people are, there's a mass falling off of the game from there. So people aren't really transitioning into club rugby after high school. It's sort of like, yeah, if you're not going to make it, then people just kind of get left by the wayside, which is sad to see. So I think they need to do more to get the participation numbers up because they know it's been dwindling for a long time now. This isn't sort of symptomatic, but it's not really a new thing. I think it's sort of been on the cards for a bit now. So which is sad to hear because yeah, I'm old enough to remember when club rugby you could go there and it's sort of a free way to watch some gun players going around for free without paying any money. So I used to go regularly back in the days and support the club game. But yeah, so hopefully, I don't know what the answer is, but hopefully the New Zealand rugby and the powers that be can sort something out there. So good thoughts there. And 100% agree about all these young guys coming through. There's a lot of good young players. So one thing I just wanted to say, on social media, I saw some teams, some invitational teams, Pacific Island invitational teams. So there was that Samoan team, the Fijian team, and the Tongan team. And I was amazed at the strength of them from all over the world, like where all these islanders are playing. So I don't know. I remember they had that Pacific Islanders team sort of maybe, well, it's going back a bit now, maybe 15 odd years ago, who got to play some tests similar to the Lions. I'd love to see some of those teams get a game. If you haven't seen it, have a check. I think I put them on our Facebook page and stuff. So there's unbelievably strong teams, and it just goes to show the influence that Polynesians have on rugby all over the world. So they grab some English. I know, use some quotation marks there. English Islanders, some Welsh Islanders from everywhere, but really, and it was just a strong team that could push the All Blacks. All three of those teams, I thought. So I just wanted to talk, mention that as well. Special mention for that. But yeah, we're just about to close up. I want to just thank all our listeners for joining us for another episode of the Counter Ruck. So we're available on the usual podcast platforms: Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, iHeart, radio, and also now we've got our YouTube channel up and going, so you can watch us there. So just thanks to everyone, and keep listening, keep watching, and providing that feedback for us. So, mate Joey, always a pleasure, mate. Thanks for being part of the pod and sharing your extensive knowledge with us and your enthusiasm. And yeah, Cam's, who was doing the fact checking, he looks to be sidetracked with a few other things. So that's us, boys. We'll be back again next week. Cheers, boys.